Instead of, well, the problem
Okay,
is the
welcome.
full
It is
appraisal.
9:01. Welcome to our May 8th, 2023 strategic planning meeting. Let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners here at this point. Commissioner Walters, I'm sure will be joining us here shortly. So with that though, we've got a busy schedule. I do wanted to say I've got a noon meeting downtown, so I'm gonna have a hard stop. I don't know if anyone else does.
I do too. I got a hard stop at 11:30, 11:45.
Okay, that's when mine is. So I see that we have potentially, if we need to, we can continue to the afternoon. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So our first up is George Dahl.
Thanks, I'll make it quick. So if we can go to
Wait, you
page,
don't have to make it quick.
We're
We're just getting started on time so that everyone has time for the presentation.
But thank you for your report.
yes, yeah, next. If we can start on slide 5. So this is the home ARP. So this came before the commissioners back in October for approval authorization to submit to HUD. And at that time, it had a couple of errors in it that we wanted to clarify and also identify the project. So the first thing is on slide 5, we didn't account for all of the funding in that. So we were off by about $450,000 of the total budget. So it's still totaled the total award of $3,005,209. It just the math didn't work. So what we're doing is we're revising the plan that we submitted to HUD. It's out for a 30-day public comment period right now that'll end on May 15th. We briefed it to the Housing and Community Development Advisory Committee at their April meeting. And so what we're proposing is to clean up the budget and then really ultimately have 2 line items. So on slide 6, the next slide, you'll see that we're putting $2,854,948.55 towards new construction. And then we're retaining $150,260.45 for administration costs. That totals the $3,005,209. And then on the next slide, slide 7, we're going to, or we've identified the specific project that $2.8 million is going to, and that's Volunteers of America Crosswalk 2.0. This is the project that's located out by Spokane Community College. They've got site control. They've got the majority of their capital stack identified with the plan to start construction this fall. So that's what we're proposing here as part of the amendment is cleaning up the budget and then making sure that the citizens know and understand exactly where we're going to be getting these funds. The prior submission to HUD did not identify a particular project, so that's what we can do here. So with that, I open it up for any questions.
So is that the picture of what it's supposed to look like when it's done?
Yeah, so that's
That's a
yeah,
significant improvement in that neighborhood. That's really nice.
it is, and it's great. The first floor is going to be a continuation of some of the services that they provide at their downtown location, and then the floors above will be more dorm style living, so kind of an innovative transitional housing model for youth experiencing homelessness.
So they're going to tear down the existing building and build new?
No, so they're gonna, the plan is to sell the existing building downtown and use that as part of the budget there.
No, I mean,
The
the
para-agency building is a different, that's for the youth center,
Yeah,
a different one.
The map, it doesn't look like there's anything there.
Oh, that property there. I thought they were building on the Clean Air building.
No, that's a different one.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was going to say, I've been in that Clean Air building for 12 years and this ain't it.
Yeah, yep.
No, that's
Yeah.
the adult shelter.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, this is vacant land they were able to acquire several years back. That
Okay.
they'll be building on.
Thank you.
Which provides the synergy of having the young adult
Oh,
shelter.
yeah.
And then the Crosswalk 2.0 next to it so that it helps with their administrative functions and all of that. Questions or comments for George? And so is it You've already got everything, the amendments already done into HUD, and you said the public hearing portion is going on. Is there anything we have to do?
No, just, so we can't submit until we've completed our 30-day public comment period. So this is a briefing for you all to give you an update on where we're at, and then we would ask for your support to submit this amendment to HUD as presented to you today.
Okay, and that will come after the 30-day.
Yep.
And it'll just be on our consent agenda. Okay. Sure. Very good. Thank you.
You bet.
Appreciate it. Then that will take us next to Doug Chase.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And with some help, I have a presentation here. I'll go through really quick. Right, I'm here with an update on our future West Plains Community Park. And if all goes well, we'll have on your consent agenda on May 16th to authorize Mike Terrell Landscape Architecture to select them and allow us to get under contract to complete the community park master development plan and design documents. And that will be the action item I'm seeking, and I've got a couple slides to provide a quick overview and refresh. Next slide, please. Okay, you may recall back in October of 2022, we were thrilled to be successful in requesting and receiving funds for Strong Healthy Communities neighborhood features for ARP funds for a future park in the West Plains. We were awarded $11 million for two projects, the Plants Ferry improvements and a West Plains community park, to include acquisition, master plan, architecture, engineering, and construction. Those funds were awarded in November, 1st November. Next slide. And there's a great couple photos of the 10-acre park site that was selected. Next slide, please. And again, there's another view that shows the proximity to potable water, sanitary sewer for the city of Spokane, ordered on the UGA, and application has been made to incorporate and receive the ability to connect to city sewer and water. The application's been submitted, and we are anticipating this to go before the city council in June or July. Next slide, please. So I'm a little out of sequence here, but you may recall we were last in front of you in March with the purchase and sale agreement. The property was acquired, in January with the purchase and sale agreement. The property closed and was acquired in March. And so following that, we had submitted application for the sewer and water. Staff has been very busy. While we've been on the track of advertising and soliciting a consultant for master planning, we've also been busy moving forward to take steps to remove the residence that's currently there, the old residence, making way for the future park. So we've already had, again, just the routine process. We've had our hazardous materials review completed. There's been a few items that are underway for abatement, and then following the completion of that, we will work to have that demoed and removed from the site. So that is also taking place right now. Next slide, please. And again, this relates to a master development plan for a future community park. And from a level of service standpoint, if you will, a community park generally considered an urban park serving urbanized incorporated Spokane County, focus on serving the UGA residents. And again, this is what I consider like a traditional irrigated park, often includes ball fields, playgrounds, restrooms, and other typical amenities. And again, we'll go out to the community. And this process will seek input from the community that we're looking to serve to see what amenities they would like to be included within the park. So that's not predetermined by any means, and the consultant that we're looking to select to bring on board would facilitate that process. Next slide, please. Again, this is just a little, grab one of these from the prior presentation that speaks to the level of service, where we have a specific need here for this. And back in 2020, the 2020 census data wasn't available at the time we did this, and we still identified that would be an area of need. So we're nice to be ahead of the curve, or right on time, if you will, with the acquisition and development of this park. Next slide, please. Again, there's just another view of the UGA area. You can see the 10-acre park property there in orange and how that will serve the area. Next slide, please. And that brings me to my final slide. And again, we're looking to bring before you an opportunity to select Mike Terrell Landscape Architecture. The RFQ was advertised. We had 5 strong submittals, and the MTLA happened to be the unanimous choice of the committee, and it went from there. So we feel really good about this firm, and that they'll be able to do a very good job for us if selected for the job. That's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Doug?
Just thank you very much. I've been campaigning for a park in the West Plains for 12 years.
Yes, you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're pleased to be moving ahead full steam on this.
This is great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Okay, that's gonna take us to Steve Bartel, and you're up next. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Commissioners. Gina has a little short PowerPoint there I created. Basically, this is just to update or revise the current resolution that assigns or appoints certain positions to the county risk pool, Washington County's risk pool. It's required in the compact, but I thought maybe just a good time, a little refresher or introduction to the risk pool to the newer commissioners. The risk pool was formed in 1988 due to a very hard liability insurance market.
Steve, turn off your phone.
Wow, I feel like I need to take the Lowe's position or something. Very zen-like.
Presentation and sound effects.
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't know I had the ability to do the sound effects.
Sorry, Steve.
You know, always learning. Anyway, there was a very hard insurance market back in 1988 in which no public entities could get any kind of commercial liability insurance. It was just a real tough market. Unfortunately, we're kind of getting there again. Over the last several years, the market is really hard enough, and quite honestly, the amount of players in the public entity liability world is drastically decreased. There's only 3 or 4 that will even write public entity business, especially in Washington, California, Oregon, those states that don't have liability caps or have the joint and several and make it exceptionally difficult and costly for them. But anyway, currently there's 26 of the 39 counties in the state that are members of the risk pool. The risk pool is not commercial insurance, it is liability coverage. The risk pool members back in '88, and we continue to revise it as needed, actually drafted what's called a manuscript liability coverage document. And what's nice about that is it doesn't follow commercial insurance, and it doesn't comport to or fall under the regulations of the state's insurance commissioner, but rather the state's risk manager. And the form, the liability coverage form, was written primarily for county governments and everything we do. where commercial insurance looks for ways to exclude coverage. Our coverage document looks for ways to include coverage. So there's kind of a big difference between the two. Besides just the liability coverage, the risk pool offers, the best thing I think that they offer is the ability to network with the other counties around the state. We've really upped the game as far as the amount of training recognized from the actual losses of the counties throughout the state, and addressing those through a lot of different training, especially the virtual world of training. And Spokane County employees have taken huge steps in grabbing onto that training. We continue to be one of the leaders of all the members in the risk pool as far as how many folks actually attend those training seminars. This next slide, please. So the risk pool is kind of an odd organization in which it's actually all the member counties that are in charge, the directors. The directors from each one of the risk pool members have the final say on everything and anything the pool does. That's from our insuring programs to the risk pool policies to new programs to bringing on new members to expulsion of those members who aren't following the compact or the bylaws. And then that board of directors, if it's kind of small to see, but glad you have that in front of you. Then it goes down to the president. We have an executive committee made up of 11 members that are chosen or elected from the member counties. I've been sitting on that executive committee for about 16 years. I've been the president twice, I've been the vice president twice, I've been the secretary treasurer 3 times. Those positions are voted amongst the executive committee for those leadership positions. And they basically the chair of the executive committee. The executive committee was formed to do a primary initial review and suggestions or recommendations on all risk pool business, whether it has to do with who we use as our broker or our actuary or our claims management and audit, and then advise the executive director and the rest of the board at our one of 3 meetings throughout the year on recommendations for membership vote on all the topics.
Yeah, I just a thought, when you talk about there are 26 of 39 counties that are a part of the risk pool, some of those counties that aren't part of the risk pool are not there because the risk pool felt that they represented too big a risk to the pool. Is that still the case, or are those 13 counties made a selection that they don't want to be part of the risk pool?
The larger counties such as Snohomish, King, Pierce are self-insured.
Self-insured.
They're just so big that they decided it was a better bang for the buck that they self-insure all of their losses and don't pay into the premiums for the risk pool. A lot of the smaller counties, the very small counties, the rural counties, have just decided to go a different route. There's another risk pool as well in the state of Washington that deals with the smaller counties, but they don't provide the same level of liability coverage. It's on a claims made versus an occurrence, so it's only for a particular time period, and they don't offer anywhere near the services, the training and the seminars and the scholarships and so on and so forth. Speaking of that, by the way, they actually have awarded $6,000 towards our IT tabletop event coming up next month. So that's the type of things they go above and beyond on. They recognize, this is a big deal. A lot of lessons learned here with this tabletop that's going to happen in our IT department. And that type of information can then go back and be shared with all the member counties to bring our loss ratios down.
But the pool has been in a position in the past where it has excluded membership for counties that don't maintain their risk. I can think of a couple of the counties that were asked to find coverage somewhere else because they represented too big a risk to the pool. I guess what I'm trying to get to is, because of the programs you operate and the measures you take to avoid risk keeps us in the pool. Without that, we might be subjected to other costs.
That's true, very true.
Okay.
There's one county that I know of, Clark County,
Yeah,
was asked to leave the pool, but it was primarily not because of their risk level, it was because they assigned coverage from a third party to the risk pool on a claim that wasn't covered by the risk pool. And so that got us in a big mess, and the pool ended up spending almost $2 million fighting a lawsuit from a third party based on insurance coverage versus risk pool coverage and so on and so forth. It went, quite honestly, all the way to the state Supreme Court.
okay, thanks.
And then the risk pool staff itself has, I think, 13 staff members, everywhere from risk management services to claims management, which is heavy into that. And then, of course, their administrative side and their member services side. So the 4 positions that require BOCC appointment are the director and any alternate directors. An alternate director would take the place. There's only, even though 3 or 4 people might go to a risk pool event, when we actually have the board meeting, there's only 1 voting member from each one of the members. That's generally with the director. Obviously, if the director can't make it, isn't there, there's no proxies, so they would send an alternate director in their place for the voting. There's a county risk manager that's assigned as well to that position, because there are actually compliance requirements for each county as far as risk management programs and accident prevention programs, liability handling policies, risk management policies, all those type of things, because we want all the members to play or have the same slice of the pie when it comes to exposure. So there are certain requirements that are laid out for all the counties. Same holds true with the county safety officer. We call them loss control specialists, but it's a safety officer that's assigned, and they're in charge of all the safety programs. Now, again, in risk management, probably 75% of the safety programs are centered around keeping our employees safe and not injured and going home at night. But there is another 25% that look at, our operations and our equipment to make sure that we're doing everything we can to prevent or reduce the amount of liability exposure to the public and against the county. And then the last position there is the county claims manager. We have Lauren Williams as our liability claims adjuster. She does a great job. Very experienced claims adjuster. I'd put her on the same level as any of the pool senior analysts. And that's the point of contact in the county that the pool co-manages and coordinates with any claim that comes in, including lawsuits. So the recommendations that I have and for the resolution update is I would I would stay as the director. I would like to place Dale Anderson as one of the alternates. For years, Rob Binger was the liaison with risk management from the civil department. He's retired. So it's the more civil deputies that we can get from the membership into the pool, the better, because there's a lot of different experience there, a lot of insight, a lot of help with challenging type of litigation that comes up against not only Spokane County, but all the members. Another alternate director, Lauren Williams, is currently an alternate director. I'd like to keep her on as well. That ensures that, if I think I've missed one board meeting in my 16 years, but just in case I couldn't make it for some reason, I would want to make sure that either Dale or Lauren would be there for that. It'll take Dale a little bit of time to get up to the workings of the risk pool, which is a good thing. But he's very excited about being more involved and attending some of the seminars and being able to network with the other chief civil deputies and prosecuting attorneys throughout the state on different risk-related matters. Lauren Williams is currently the claims administrator. She will stay in that position as that's what her position is. And currently Cindy Close is designated as the safety officer, but I wanted to change that up to Dan Gadd. I'm trying to get him a lot more experience in the risk management world. He's recently completed his associates in risk management, and I think he would be a great asset to one of the subcommittees, the risk management committee on the risk pool, to get him more involved in that direction. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions, Ann.
Any questions? And I guess I would just, with Cindy, I mean, I know Cindy too. Is there a reason why you're wanting to switch the two, or just?
I want to get Dan a lot more involvement with the pool and a lot more experience in the big picture of insurance and risk management and underwriting and loss control and those type of things. I think Cindy is getting very close to retirement within a couple of years or so. So to get some new faces in there, not only do they bring in new ideas to the risk pool, but we just get that much more experience.
And Commissioner, Steve and I have been talking a lot about, since I've been working with risk, that cross-training, right? And how do we make sure that we don't have people so pigeonholed into one area? Risk is extremely diverse, but also very specialized, right? And so really talking about how do we afford some people like Dan an opportunity to cross-train into some of those areas. So in the event someone hits the lottery and gets to leave tomorrow, right? We have not pigeonholed people so tightly into one niche that we're not able to lockstep fold into places. So when we've been discussing this, to Steve's point, Cindy's probably not too far from retirement. Dan has a lot of runway, and especially finishing his degree, it just makes sense for us at this point to put him into that role to allow for that cross-training to occur while he still has people around him to ask questions to lean on while he's learning that piece.
Any other questions?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
See you in a couple hours.
Thanks, Steve. Scott Chesney.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have before you this morning almost a ministerial function. It is a tax classification change that is generally, it's processed through the assessor's office, but it goes through building and planning for a couple reasons that you'll see as we go on here. Next slide, please. This is from a property owner, Doug Kelly, who owns the Meade Flying Service. This is related to the parcels that compose what's generally called the Meade Airstrip or airport. We look at the, as you can see here, Department of Revenue, to look at whether something like this actually qualifies, because it's sort of a hybrid of sense. And so it does have some public benefit. We had testimony from some witnesses that are both pilots and those that use aviation. Even law enforcement has sometimes used this strip as a training facility. Next slide, please. Here you can see in an aerial and an open space category map, the highlighted parcels running north-south. Newport Highway is off to the east that you can see there. And the open space corridor is simply to show that there is already designated open space in the area that touches the southern portion of this property. Next slide, please. The technical aspects that come through here include any culturally significant issues, ecologically important issues, and then what the tax classification benefit is that the owners of the lands agree to not develop them. This land is currently zoned for single-family development. And most importantly, for building and planning's perspective, is it doesn't change, it doesn't preclude future development at any time. If it comes back with a development proposal, any of the tax deferrals must simply be paid back, and essentially the county is made whole on that. Next slide, please. And the reason we're before you today is this classification does require legislative approval and a public hearing, as the board has done in its general direction. The Planning Commission held that public hearing, went through listening to testimony. Staff uses a rating form that has 18 specific criteria, and points are scored up to 15 in most of these areas. And this application scored 151 out of 320 possible points, which makes it eligible for a 50% deferral. And so the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing on March 2nd, and the Commission is made a unanimous recommendation to the board for approval of this action. Not always the most exciting things we talk about in growth and development, but it falls to you to ultimately make this decision to grant that tax deferral. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for, that explains the process too, so appreciate that.
Happy to do so. Thank you, Commissioner.
Scott, that's gonna take us to Scott Simmons.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. So last week we talked about the need to establish a regional opioid abatement council. That is amongst the 10 participating local jurisdictions in what's defined in the One Washington MOU as the Spokane region. Spokane County is one of them. We discussed last week drafting up a letter to send to the other 9 jurisdictions that would call this out to them. Some of them, many of them may already be aware of it, but it's we thought it'd be helpful to send out a letter from the BOCC to these other 9 jurisdictions discussing the need to develop this. We highlight in here that once we'll take the lead on developing the agreement we already have. We'll share it with them once we have the draft agreement to begin discussions. We highlight the fact that our private counsel for all the participating local governments, that's Keller Rohrbach, has advised that the structure should be created and in place by June 1. This is just the structure of the regional OAC, nothing to do with the actual prioritization and spending of the dollars, just that regional OAC. And then in the letter, we ask for them to provide us a point of contact so we can begin working through the draft document, the draft agreement. We've provided Dale Anderson the contact from a legal standpoint, and Justin and I talked last week and felt like he could be a good contact for any administrative related questions on the regional OAC. So it's a very short, brief letter. If you have questions or comments or changes you'd like to make, be happy to incorporate those. If not, because we are approaching June 1 rapidly here, we'd like to get this thing out this week, and considering having it as a bi-leave item tomorrow for you all to approve the letter, and then we get it sent out to the other 9 jurisdictions. So thoughts, questions, feedback?
Do you have a draft of it?
Yeah, it's in your
Oh, I just didn't see it here.
This is just the draft. That's the one, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you already it's right there on the top.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Right in front of my face.
Oh, that's the, okay.
I'll give you a few minutes to read through if you want to scan it.
So are the other counties, they're not required to be part of the regional one?
They are.
Oh, that's what the settlement said?
Yeah.
It had to be all these counties and cities
It
together?
lays them out. There's 9 regions throughout Washington
Okay.
State. They're prescribed in the One Washington MOU. It names the region, it names the counties and the other cities that are part of those.
But it didn't say which jurisdiction would have to be the main,
Lead, if you will.
yeah.
Nope, there are
So I
no,
just thought that
there are no leads.
maybe in the first paragraph, we might wanna say like, we are offering to be the lead entity.
Mhm.
You know, not just assuming. So maybe a little bit of a, Spokane County's we have been doing our due diligence and looking at how we can set this up. We'd love to, we'd love to provide that service to the rest of the counties, and we will be sending a proposed draft for your consideration or something.
Yep, and I kind of call that out in and I could say Spokane County is offering to draft a proposed agreement.
That's just
I didn't want to
one little change like
Yep.
that, I think would be good.
Yeah, we weren't wanting to presuppose that there is any county that's
I don't
lead
think
on
anyone
here,
else is, but
but knowing that we're a month from this being needed to be established, we wanted to kind of, nudge the rest of the jurisdictions, say, hey, let's come together. We'll be happy to draft up an agreement for you.
So what if one of the other counties says they want to do it?
Be happy to take an agreement from them.
Dale has reached out to all of these entities previously, and we've only received response from one.
Yeah.
So this is not the first communication that's gone out on this issue. And other than our communications with the city and the valley and other local jurisdictions, there's only been one other county that has responded to communications on this issue to date.
And it doesn't say it, but it kind of implies we're the lead on this. I mean, we're sending them the letter. It says Spokane County is
Yeah, I
in the
just didn't know
process
if
of
we had already
drafting a
sent
proposed agreement.
a previous letter asking
But
No,
if you
we-
want.
I'm just saying, to Amber's point, I mean,
Right.
it doesn't come out and say it, but I mean, it implies it.
What about like
I would think
We've
we would
sent,
understand that.
we have sent multiple emails to all the jurisdictions in the region. And we've had some meetings, I know with the city and the valley has participated as well. And there's been some communication, but as far as the other counties and the other entities involved, we've only ever received response, I think it was Ponderay or Ponderay
Yeah.
County
Only ones.
was the only response we received,
What was the response?
that they're interested in
Okay.
participating.
Okay.
So what if the other entities don't participate?
Then they don't get the money,
But
they don't
basically,
get their money,
they don't get their money?
that's, yes.
Because I wonder if they're thinking that if they participate, we're all combining the funds. So maybe a misunderstanding on their part. So maybe a clarification here might be that this just ensures that everybody participates to get their funding, but this entity isn't going to be determining the funding for each entity.
Just to piggyback on what Commissioner Keeney was saying, and none of these entities, I mean, early on, we thought potentially you could kind of go at it alone with your, but that is not allowed, correct?
You have to have a regional structure.
Yes, okay, so I'm saying maybe
It's
they
not that
didn't
you're
reply
completely
because
tied to it,
Right.
but they're,
maybe they
yes.
don't understand that yet. And they were thinking essentially what we thought 6 months ago was there was possibly the potential that we
And
could go at it alone.
Dale did just.
Let me offer something really quick before Dale goes. We were trying not to make the letter too robust. What we were planning on doing is attaching the One Washington MOU, highlighting all the relevant sections related to the regional OAC. We don't want to presuppose that all these other jurisdictions have read these, reviewed them, but it's been out here for nearly a year, maybe 9 months. So we were just going to make it easy to point in the document, here's all the responsibilities of the regional OAC, here's where it calls out that they have to be established, here's where it calls out the regions defined, so it's in there. And again, the regional OAC does not determine how to spend the dollars. They're only responsible for aggregating the information that how the dollars get spent and utilized by the individual local participating jurisdictions who can create the priorities, determine the spending approaches, and then the regional OAC will establish dashboards and metrics. There'll be the quasi appeals place if someone feels like a local participating jurisdiction did not spend them appropriately. So it's very narrowly defined in terms of what the regional OAC will do.
I was just saying, so would it be more accurate to say, to meet the requirements of the One Washington MOU, our Spokane region is creating a regional opioid abatement? We're not required, we are not required, but we are, but we're creating one.
Our Spokane
Our
region
how about
is
our
required
region?
to.
Our region is required.
Yep, so our Spokane region is required to, not Spokane County.
Okay,
I was trying to, again, make it that it's not, we're not the ones telling you you must. One Washington MOU tells us we
Okay.
must. And then we're offering, and I could include some language in there, Spokane County is offering to draft a proposed agreement to share with the rest of the jurisdictions.
I get it. I get what you're trying to,
Trying to thread the needle.
well, I mean, it's, and we're saying that the region, whatever in the settlement is region 9 or whatever it is, but no one knows what that is, so. Our greater
It actually
Spokane.
is
Greater
called
Spokane
the
region?
Spokane region in the document.
Okay,
Yeah, there's like North Island or North
Okay.
Sound region. There are, it is spelled out there. I double
you're
checked
gonna
that just to make
highlight
sure.
that in the attachment. Okay, so that makes sense.
I don't know if I have anything to add. I just would say that this matter's been in flux for several months now. Initially, when I spoke with David Coe, he indicated, yes, we can do a local OAC, and we kind of looked at doing that, but he also indicated that a regional OAC would be required under the MOU. So it's kind of a dual structure, but we've decided after discussion that the best approach would be to just set up a regional OAC with control of the dollars being at the local level, the OAC then reviewing the proposals, reviewing the proposals, indicating whether they comply with the requirements under the memorandum of understanding, and then doing the reporting. So all the heavy lifting is going to be left at the local municipalities, and then the OAC is basically serving as an oversight. The regional OAC is serving as an oversight. And at some point, we had talked about doing our own local OAC to kind of make a second level, but it became really too complicated to set up two different entities for that purpose.
So, for the smaller counties, have they been given money at this point directly?
No one's reported that to us, as far as I know.
Our assumption is because we have received money and other of the cities in Spokane County have, we're presuming the others have as well, the same distribution path that we did.
But they can't spend it until this is set up.
That's what we understand.
So I think one of the issues is the smaller counties, the amount of money they're receiving is pretty de minimis. Yeah. $5,000, $6,000, something in that neighborhood. So their incentive to spearhead this or put a lot of time and effort into it is not particularly great.
So what is our deadline after we send this? When are we gonna get the draft agreement to folks so that they have enough time to review before this June 1st?
Go this week.
So let her go out tomorrow and then,
Attached to this, right?
no,
No, the agreement wasn't. We were, there's still an outstanding question on the agreement that we should probably talk about here. This was just, let's get the letter out, to make them aware, to get their wheels spinning around this, get us a local contact, and we could follow up quickly with the proposed agreement as well. I don't think we're going to be out of compliance or anything if we don't hit the June 1, as Dale's been talking with them. That's their, what the outside plaintiffs' counsel has said, that's the target date that you should try to strive to have this in place. Nothing in the one region, one Washington MOU states thou shalt by the state or else. Doesn't have it in there.
and
So-
at least in my own discussions with the city attorney's office, their understanding, and this seems consistent, is that if you miss the June date, it's not going to prevent you from getting or spending the money, it's going to potentially delay it.
Yeah.
And so it might delay the the distribution of money, but would not prohibit you from, if you don't hit that date, it's not going to necessarily take money away.
So we might wanna request a point of contact, like by a certain date,
yeah.
within the next week,
Sure.
so that then you can send the draft contract in the next week to those individuals.
And I guess beyond the cities, I mean, if there's any, if we're not getting a point of contact from the other counties, let me know and I'm happy to reach out to the counties.
Yeah, and the good thing is Justin Johnson is, he's got
Contacts
He's
with the
got the
BHA,
likely contacts are gonna be for the
Yes.
other counties through the BHASO, so he felt pretty comfortable about being able to reach out to them and also, hey, this is on its way and please be looking for it, it's coming to your commissioners. So he felt like he could get someone relatively as well, but I'll definitely let you know if we don't hear anything.
Cause I guess, when the draft room has been developed, it's like, do you have an anticipated date? I mean, are you thinking it's gonna be done within the week,
Well,
just to give it
we
the
already,
timeframe?
we already have a draft that could go out. We have two different versions of that agreement. One is, as we talked about last week, membership composition. That's really the outstanding question. And it's
And the voting.
for all of the jurisdictions to weigh in on, so we just have to understand that. And so hearing from you all what your preferred approach is, the voting, and so there's a couple different approaches to take. There's 10 jurisdictions, 6 counties and 4 cities. We're one of the counties. The voting, the application of voting, if you just take the One Washington MOU as it's stated and look at the responsibilities, there really isn't anything voting that would need to be weighted except for possibly on an appeals, if someone were to appeal the eligible uses of it by another jurisdiction. So Spokane County would not be ceding anything to the lack of a weighted distribution by establishing this with a 1-for-1 if you're just following what the responsibilities of the OAC is. And it's essentially to not administer the funds, but to be that roll-up organization for the ability to produce dashboards for how the dollars are spent and to be the appeals. They're not making decisions on prioritization of the uses of the funds. They're not making decisions on evaluating proposals, doing contracts or contract administration, or tracking the deliverables under it. That's not the role of the regional OAC, that's the role of the local participating jurisdictions individually.
So that's as of today.
Yep.
And the rules can change. And, every time I think about this kind of regional governance structure, the first 2 words that come to mind are Martin Hall. And, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so I would, even if today it's de minimis in terms of its application, I would still think that long-term, we want to have some kind of weighted structure to represent the lion's share of the responsibility which the county would carry on. Just my position.
There is language, and we borrowed the North Sound Regional OAC establishment. That was the agreement between, I remember Dale, 7 counties and 11 cities. And there is some language in there specific to the agreement, once signed, cannot change unless agreed to by all of the members of the regional OAC. So it precludes something from changing without agreement by all. So it's essentially could be viewed as a backstop to prevent something like that from happening, Commissioner French, as you just highlighted. I'm trying to find that particular.
And that same language is in Martin Hall that prevents us from being able to leave.
Yeah. Understand.
I just, we are struggling with the legacy of a bad decision made several councils before us. And I just don't want to be the legacy for commissioners in the future for a bad decision that we make.
So do one of the options that you're working with have the weighted votes in there?
It does.
Okay, so you have some language for us. Do you want to share that this week with?
Yep, we can send it over, we can visit individually on it and get your feedback on it. I understand the desire to be long-term focused on this and make sure that we protect the county's best interest. I'm equally as, well, not equally, also concerned that a weighted voting membership, which it would place 50% of the weighting with the county, because that represents our dollars. We would place about a little under 30 with the city of Spokane. And I don't know how the other jurisdictions are going to view this, and if it might stall us from being able to get a regional OAC established. I just highlight that for consideration as well.
We're not to that point yet. I
You're
mean,
not
I
to
think as
that
of
point.
today,
Yeah.
it's just this letter. Are we comfortable with this going out, or what changes need to be made to it? So.
Well, Al, we talked about SRTC, because isn't SRTC where it's a,
Weighted voting structure too.
But
but
only
only
if it's called.
if it's triggered.
Only if it's triggered, and it's triggered by a couple of the members saying, we want to go to a weighted vote.
So I mean, I think to me,
That same structure could work here. Yeah.
I think so.
And it's used very infrequently, that I remember.
So
on SRT.
since it's been put in place, it's never been used because everybody knows it's in place.
Right.
So, it's the deterrent, measure that, keeps everybody honest.
But I think that's a better way to do it, so you're not
Yeah.
trying to figure out votes every time you vote on something. It's just.
Yeah, it's there as a
something,
backstop.
Simple
I don't-
majority
I think
until
one
it's
trigger
challenged, yeah.
It's thought of.
And I'd be happy with that. And I'd be happy with that in Martin Hall.
So, I mean, maybe,
Yep, we've got access to the agreement. We'll pull that language and have it for your consideration as well. Okay,
But yes to the letter, I think.
all right,
Let's
and
get
we'll
that out.
make a couple of the slight revisions that was suggested, and we'll have it for your by leave. And we'll also include the highlighted sections of the One Washington MOU that will be attached to this as well. We'll bring that for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. The other piece that I had, I believe I was just gonna go through the proposed changes on your meeting structures. So all of the meeting structure changes that we've talked about going to by every other Monday, I think the first and the third Monday for strategic plannings at 9 a.m., doing the BOCC briefings on Tuesday morning, and the legislative agenda on Tuesday afternoon. That's all ready to go. We do not need a public hearing, as I've talked with our colleagues in our civil department. That's just that's a resolution, an action by the board. There's no other action Commissioner French had raised. Is there something that the board needs to do to approve the revised meetings for the rest of the year? There isn't a statutory requirement to do that. I know some other committees that you serve on or boards that you serve on do that as a practice at the beginning of the year, setting it. That's certainly something for the board to consider if you want to, moving forward, adopt your meeting schedule for the year. One thing that it would do is it would eliminate the need for the board of the clerk of the board to have to send out cancellations for those meetings that you've already established you're not going to meet, so it could add an efficiency thing. But it's separate from this. No action is required other than a resolution to approve your new meeting structure.
And we would have that on your consent agenda, I think, of the 23rd that we looked at. So then it would be effective June 1, which is a Wednesday. So it's really effective the following week's schedule. So that gives enough time for that to get out there and get in place. So just wanted to give you an update on the timing of that action coming forward. So I have.
And you sent out the draft changes. We talked about those at the last meeting.
Yep.
So nothing,
No, there's a few.
few changes.
There's a few that have been made. Chris's team has looked at it. They're pretty minor, so we'll get that out. I'll try to get that out this week as well. Yep. It's just a couple where we missed a legislative versus regular sort of things in there.
Then that's gonna take us to Mark. Thank you for joining us today from the West Plains Chamber.
Very happy to be here.
Yes, no, we appreciate it. So I will let you introduce yourself, just so if public and everyone.
Is it okay if I stand up?
You can do whatever you would like to
Thanks.
do.
I do better standing.
And if you'd like to sit, kind of at the head of the table up there.
Sure, I can
you're
do that.
welcome to that.
Or if you're gonna need to point to something on the screen, you can.
I might be pointing the screen too, so I might just move all over if that's
Perfect.
okay. My name is Mark Losh. I'm the CEO of the West Plains Chamber of Commerce. I think we're still the fastest growing light industrial area in the state of Washington. I think we're in the top 10 in the country. Mr. French is aware of a lot of the activities that are going on out there. Mr. French and I, Commissioner, have had a lot of conversations about the growth of West Plains, and also with Ron, might be as good of a testimony of what's going on out there, so you don't hear me trying to sell what we're doing. When I came to this position, coming from the Missoula Area Chamber of Commerce for about 6 years, I really saw the value of converting from an event-driven chamber that charges a ticket to everything you do throughout the year to becoming an initiative-driven chamber. The West Plains has business growing and coming as fast as it possibly can. I don't need to do much help there. But if our communities aren't healthy, if they're not safe, if they don't have housing, if they don't have good education, those businesses are not going to thrive, and the employees won't live out there. And they want to. They want to live out there now. We have a housing crisis, which everyone's aware of. But I wanted you to understand the philosophy, what initiative-driven is. So in your packets, you got a lot of pages. This was our last 3 newsletters that we put out that talks about what's going on in the West Plains. So I'm not going to go through them, but you might want to start seeing what's in our newsletters because we're really being comprehensive. Our focus, if you can go to the website, our focus is truly to engage in our community. In fact, we have a whole series called the Community Engagement Series. But our website was designed and built to showcase the West Plains and what we're trying to do. As you can see, connect, engage, and grow. That is our entire mission statement, 3 words. When you scroll down a little bit, the very first thing you see is current focus. And it talks about the Airway Heights, which turned into the West Plains Safety Alliance Committee. Scroll a little farther for me there, Ron, I appreciate it. And there's a summary of what they're doing. In your packet is their complete annual report. And on the very front page of it, it talks about milestones in addition to working together on completing the community needs assessment, which is in your packet. Over the last 12 months, we've added 13 additional members to our steering committee, which are all businesses. And we're working on youth, drug, and alcohol prevention in schools and community. We're able to get funding to put officers in 2 of the different buildings, human trafficking, embedded behavior, health services, and police departments and schools, forensic analysis. And we're also working on ways to help stop generational crime. That means a parent has a record and a student has a record. Last year, we got, I think, 10 kids out, took them camping over 6 different weekends, changed their life. Every single student was there on time, and the parents are telling us that they changed their friends. They're changing their outlook in school. They're changing their grades. So we're really making some great work on the West Plains Safety Alliance. If you scroll back up for me at the top.
Could you tell me more about that? Like where's the funding or what?
Mostly coming from grants.
Who's the lead entity that brings in those grants and?
Her name is on the very front page.
Oh, sorry, maybe it's
That's okay.
on here somewhere.
Elise, I put it on the bottom.
Elise Minotti?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So Elise is the person that's heading this up.
That's what I guessed, because I've worked with her on the Safe Communities.
Yeah, she's a superstar.
Partnership in the East Central and other areas, yes.
So this was a brainchild of Brad, our chief of police out of Airway Heights, to start doing this, who has an extensive history of task force and gang-related activities. So the West, that's one thing. If you go to the top for me, Ron, I want you to click on a tab that says Community Initiatives, and the first one down. Right there, current initiatives. This is a living page. If we're gonna be an initiative-driven chamber, we have to tell our story of who we are and what we do. And as you scroll down, you'll see that it talks about safety, homelessness. That's an interview that was done with the Huckleberry Press that gives you better details. Skip that, because you can do that on your own. West Plains Safety Alliance, there is our main focus. If you scroll a little farther, you can see those bullet points. That's what we're trying to affect out there. Scroll a little farther. We're also heavily involved in United Spokane, homelessness issues, and being part of that 90-day study. Next one. Human trafficking. You notice that red spot, Spokane. We are on a circuit. That's something we're going to address also. My goal is to get everybody that's in the Spokane region that's involved in human trafficking in a room together just once to talk and find out who's doing what and how can they cross collaborate. Next one up. West Plains Transportation Tag. We don't have much to say yet because we're in the middle of a study, but we're identifying transportation needs of the West Plains through 2045. And we hope in the next 30 to 60 days to have some information on that. You can scroll up again. And there's some of the other things that I'm involved with, and there's 2 or 3 things that aren't on there. The reason I wanted to show you all of this, we have 3 events in 23 that you pay a ticket to come to at our chamber. Only 3. We had our breakfast that we had in March. We have our Breakfast on the Ruse, which celebrates Easter and the kickoff of football. And then we have, in November, we have our Best of the West, we give away awards. We're in the community. In fact, this summer, Mayfest started this week. Who's from Cheney around here? Y'all heard of Mayfest? We are the voice of Mayfest. So this morning, the newsletter went out on the history of Cheney. Tomorrow, an interview is going to drop from the mayor. Wednesday, he's going to talk about where to eat, shop, stay. Thursday, he's going to talk about all the events of the event. So we're doing the marketing for Cheney, Medical Lake, Airway Heights, Lilac Festival, Eastern, and a little bit with the airport, as we've been doing as they have openings. I have businesses that have been the sponsor of that. So Providence is sponsoring our work for Mayfest this week. All of those sponsorships are non-dues revenue for us. So I don't have to charge you ticket prices to come to a golf tournament or an event that's one day that makes no difference in my community. I have all these businesses supporting our work in the community, and that's what we'll be doing most of the year. Go back up to the top for me. Why would someone be involved in the West Plains Chamber if you're a small business? Do me a favor and scroll down far enough to where you can see where it says members. Go to member directory. So I'm a small little business with under 10 employees. One of my biggest expenses and headaches is a website. Scroll down a little farther for me. Keep going. Keep going. We'll take McKinstry, for example. Scroll a little farther. The key thing is this is what most chambers look like. You just have a wall, some information. See where it says description? Click that for me. This software we're using actually gives every single member a website inside our website at no extra cost. So they get to have, you can scroll farther down, it's a full page, and they control what goes on here. But wait, there's more. Go back up a little farther. Click on View Our Digital Display. Now they get a second page, because images tell a story. Scroll down for me. Pick one and click on it. It opens to another. There's 12 images there. I'm giving every member a deep website that all they have to do is go in and update and manage. And because 320 members have this, the amount of SEO going on behind this is extensive. Many times your page on the chamber comes up before your own Google page. Now this is done by Chamber Nation. It's a newer software company that caters to chambers. I was familiar with my work in Arizona and some other areas, and that was one of the things we brought. When I got here, we can use nice words that it was just on reserve. This chamber was shut down. There was no director for over a year. It was an event-driven chamber. It was a have fun little chamber. We are now the West Plains Chamber of Commerce, and we're working to make the West Plains the best place to live and work and the safest place to live and work. 52% of my members are actually in Spokane. 17% are in the Valley. Why do you think that is? Because everybody's doing business in the West Plains. We have dirt, we have open space, and we have projects coming so fast that I can't even keep track of it. So that was a very quick dialogue. I don't want to use too much of your time. I want to introduce who we are and hope you might start watching this. You might see what we're doing. And maybe you decide to do a little more investing in the West Plains, because we are making changes. Are there any questions anybody has? Yes.
So what is the relationship with the PDA? And how do you see your work and their work interacting?
Well, my
Or
board chair.
your work and your work, I guess.
So
Not
my
their.
current board chair was the executive director there, who's now started his own business. Karen and the chamber have a wonderful relationship working out there. We track what's going on. They come to our events, they're at our meetings. So I think we have a great relationship. We're able to find out what's going on in that area, even more than just inside the PDA, because they hear so much. The next step, they don't know this yet, I'm waiting for their new director to get there. The next step is I want to have a tab on my page that says site selector. Site selectors don't like to dig. They don't want to look. They don't want to try to phone call. They want to have, click a button and there's a name and a phone there, but that'll be mine. I'll ask them 3 questions and then I'll refer them right to S3R3 or to Josh at GSI or to the Valley where they're, whatever it needs to be, but there's no one has a site selector tab anywhere yet. We did this in Montana and we put up a site selector. They actually hired a gentleman who job was to recruit business to come to the state of Montana. We put the site selector up on the Missoula Chamber, and in the first 3 months, I had 4 phone calls. The first month, 3 of them. As soon as they saw the site selector, oh, these people know what I'm looking for is what it tells them. So it's a great tool to have. So we're hoping to add that. I have a great relationship. The airport also. Larry speaks at my events. I get invited. Instead of me telling you our relationship out there, I'm gonna let Al speak.
Yeah, no, the chamber's been a fantastic partner with us and stuff. And so, and the energy that they provide to the West Plains, I mean, it's changed dramatically with Mark. I mean, he is, well, you can just tell, you get nervous just standing with him because he's always moving, kind of a deal and stuff.
Yes, stand up and move around.
You know, it's
That's
so,
better walking.
but there's a great synergy between the chamber, the airport, S3R3. And the nice thing is that initiative around the West Plains Chamber very much extends to Cheney, to Medical Lake, to Airway Heights. So those communities are all engaged and stuff. So, and you know, with regard to S3R3, we are interviewing on a national level for a new director. And some of the applicants we've been interviewing with are just hitting it out of the park. The challenge is which one do we want to bring to Spokane? So, but yeah, no, there's a lot of good stuff going on, and it's exciting to be part of it.
For the first time, all 3 mayors of the communities are actually having conversations steadily.
Yeah.
They're beginning to talk about, well, at Medical Lake, Cheney, and Airway Heights, every has that same issue. They have about 4 or 5 issues. Why are we not working on these together? Was the question I asked, and they're beginning to do that. Well, if we do this part and you do that part, so the collaboration is become a regional, because we're a regional chamber. I count Davenport and Reardon. I count Spangle. They all spend their money out there. North 40 has people driving 100 miles once a week to go to their store. Yeah. We are the entrance from the west coming east.
And one of the things that, you know, part of that, the outcome of that, the 3 mayors talking to each other is they now are actively engaged in a conversation to create a regional governance facility that will provide those government services for all 3 communities in one location, as opposed to having to drive to each one of the 3 locations and having them work in marginal facilities. So that, and, you know, the fire districts are talking about, you know, the Fire District 3 just took over Medical Lake, and Fire 3 and 10 are now talking about potential merger. So there's a lot of really good stuff going on that tries to leverage relationships.
There's the last thing I want to share with you. There's a study that was in your packet from the West Plains Safety Alliance, and it was the Cheney Airway Heights Community Survey results. And it's all these pages of very defined information that I think the county could take value in.
You know, the other thing that is unique about the West Plains is it's not just about businesses and stuff. I mean, he's also working closely with a group that, you know, I know Josh and I have been working with, and that's Cattlemen's Association.
Yes.
How do you promote ag? Because the ag in the West Plains is one of the major industries that we have to work with and stuff. So it's a whole potpourri of different groups.
I wanted to wear a nice jacket today because the last picture of me online was in a cowboy hat and beat up and kind of dirty out the West Jensen Memorial Youth Ranch. But if you don't know what the Jensen Memorial Youth Ranch does, we just had a livestock show. They provide a 120-acre ranch and allows 4-H and FA kids, and it's managed by 4-H and FA leaders, to bring their animals to that ranch at no cost. So you can take your hog out there, fatten it up. You got to supply the food, but they supply the shavings, they supply the facility, they supply everything. So there were 220 kids that were at the stock show this weekend because of the Jensen Memorial Youth Ranch. And I'm really trying to advocate to get more community funding to help, because Carl and Craig Grubb are doing all this right out of their pocket.
Yeah.
Bless them. But it's just, it truly changes lives of kids the first time you manage an animal. There's a young man that came up here, Air Force, aviation tech, landed, second day went to North 40, said, we'd like to get involved in 4-H. North 40 said, you need to go to this address, gave him Carl Grubb's house, that afternoon was a fundraising picnic. Terrell Cole showed up with his son, 8 years old, the picnic lost, saw him, talked with him, got a pig. Chris P. Bacon was his name. He showed him at the stock show. He can't wait to do it again next year. Just changed that young man's life, who lived on asphalt in LA his whole life. And now he understands responsibility and what farming and ranching is.
Yeah, I did the opening for the Junior Livestock Show last week. And, you know, to see these kids and the amount of work that they put into their animals and stuff is just incredible. And of course, you know, you spend all this time invested into taking care of them and fattening them up so that you can end up selling them and stuff. So that's the other part of it. But, you know, I was walking around the pen and saw this little kid, couldn't have been more than 7, 8 years old, trying to pull a 200-300 pound hog, you know, into the pen and stuff. And the dad was watching him and everything. And I said, well, aren't you going to help? And I said, the dad said, no, I'm teaching him how to pull pork. Anyway, it had to have been there. Anyway.
We're doing more than just agriculture. We're truly trying to help support business. I was a little bit late today because Goodwill opened today.
Yeah.
3 different phases of the Goodwill store. They have their donation, which is normal. They have their normal shopping, but they moved their warehousing there to where they have these giant bins that every 45 minutes the bins rotate. And it's a whole nother $1.8 million worth of revenue just comes out of that. Their online sales is up to 20% of their income now. 100 employees are out there. A huge win for the West Plains to have Goodwill come out there. So we're excited.
And it was on the news this morning, but the new outlet, I think is what they're calling them.
Yes, yes.
Third section, so yeah. So very exciting, and yes, I happen to be one of the recipients of some of those. I don't know, I bought a half a cow, so. So, yes, so it's always fun to support the youth and what they're doing and that, so.
And I like that we're doing it 2 ways. We're helping those that are generational crime, and then we're helping the kids that are ranchers and farmers, and we're trying to catch everybody in between. I'm on this Cheney advisory board on what we need for new school buildings, and Cheney needs more school buildings. I didn't realize how big their territory is. It's one of the largest physical school districts in the state. Sorry?
The largest.
It is the largest, 1 of 5 in the country. Anyway, so we're involved in that. I'm jumping in anywhere I can to simply make the West Plains a better place to live and work.
And keep in mind that one of our challenges with capital facilities is, you know, special purpose districts not doing that planning, but Cheney is and stuff. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to continue to support that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mark?
Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Anytime you ask, I'll be here.
Thank you. Maybe you don't ask.
Okay, that's gonna next take us to Kyle.
commissioners.
It's gonna be my hidden schedule.
All right. 2 items for this morning. Matt's gonna lead off with a vacation for Salton Lake Road, and then we'll cover one other administrative.
Morning, Commissioners. This will be a quick one for my part. We have a vacation out on Salt East Lake Road. You can see on the vicinity map, it's where you would expect, out around Salt East Lake there. And what we have is just a little bit of excess right of way. Essentially, there was a bend in the road that was an angle before, and then we made it a curve. So we have a little extra right of way. The petitioner is the property owner there, and he just is in the process of wanting to sell his property and was hoping to clear this up. We have no current or future need for this right of way, so we're supporting the petition to vacate it. Happy to answer any questions.
See any questions?
Okay, thanks.
And this second item here is the administrative action that probably a little late to the gate on here, but we have never actually fully by resolution done the consolidation of the two departments that now make up Public Works. So the formal Environmental Services Division or the Utilities Division, and then the Public Works Division, which as of December of 2021 is when effectively these were merged. I assume that was retirement date of Kevin Cook. And then, so this resolution is just that administrative piece for the board action to codify, or I don't want to use the word codify because there's another action coming. I'll be briefing you again, which is actually the code changes. We have to go in and clean up Spokane County Code, chapters 8 and 9, for all those references to the Environmental Services Division, Environmental Services Director, and change all those over to Public Works Director or County Engineer as a flex goal in that. So that's a future action. This is simply the resolution that the board is supporting the consolidated effort.
Yeah, because I think, yes, this occurred back when Kevin retired. And so Chad took over as Public Works Director. And we've had several iterations. I mean, Al, you probably know over the years that it's been environmental services separate than Public Works. It was Public Works combined and then separated again. So.
Yep.
It's
Constant challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, and for Commissioner Waldorf and Commissioner Jordan's benefit, we did have a retirement of one of our directors in December 2021. At the time, we looked at both environmental services and public works, and there was a lot of kind of complementary things they do. They do design for road projects, they do design for wastewater projects, they do construction management, they do grants and whatnot, but they did them kind of individually. So as we looked at, we took an opportunity with one director retiring, could we bring the teams together and start to share some of the knowledge and work and flow, and so that was done. And then Chad Coles, who was the public works director, retired. And then when we hired Kyle, he's just been taking on this work and looking for opportunities to just make them a much more efficient working together team. So this is really just an administrative functions to make it, they've been operating that way, so just make it so within the code.
Just a couple questions. So how has that been going then, Kyle, under your leadership to find those common functions and get people working together maybe on grants or across the two former departments?
Very well, with more to grow. I'd say there was already been a lot of opportunities with teams that didn't know they had some like functions, especially when the capital delivery group, excuse me, that had a real strong nexus because we're doing projects in two different divisions, but it's all public works, it's all capital. So bringing those design and construction management groups together, that certainly helped. But we're finding more and more of these opportunities, having our, even just having, our fleet services and our mechanics more tightly integrated with the needs of the wastewater operations group. We're just finding nexuses over and over, and I think we're still exploring them. In fact, we're looking at aligning a couple of lines of business right now that are really all of our very customer facing lines of business, so that everybody who is interacting with Spokane County Public Works has that same customer experience. So I'd say it's been going very well, and there's even more opportunities as we find links and support. I mean, we have a bridge group, which is, a very strong group for our bridges, but that's because that means we also have a structural engineering component within our group. So they've actually been out, they were just on site at our solid waste transfer station doing the structural inspection of the facilities at the transfer stations. And so finding all these, the more these relationships get stronger, the better. And so I'd say it's going very well with more to go.
And my second question is, sometimes with consolidation, you wanna make sure you still have the capacity, of people to manage. Just because you consolidate doesn't mean there's still not a lot of work to be done. So have you obviously had 2 full-time directors, and now you have 1 full-time director. So have you made other changes or added managers to be able to compensate for that
Yes, we
need
have.
for capacity and leadership?
We do, and there's a yes and then a what's coming up, which I'll be briefing you on later, which is that we have our 5 administrators. So the 5 major lines of business in Public Works each have their own senior director, and then with support staff underneath that as well. From a overall, we're still trying to get back towards the staffing level we would like to get to. We're having some recruitment challenges competing with the local market in this inflationary environment, which we hope will continue to get addressed and get better at. So in a way, we're still trying to fight back for some more of that capacity, but that's not really as it relates to the consolidation as much as it relates to our ability to recruit. We've got some great young talent that's getting more opportunities and they've been promoting up, but we really need to backfill some of our entry level positions and bolster those teams, and we're trying.
And Commissioner Waldriff, to speak to your question a little bit more, and it's only because Kyle wasn't here when the initial restructure occurred. So when Chad Coles was still here, he, myself, and Scott Simmons sat down before we kind of reorged, so to speak, and we took many meetings to sit down and look at, okay, as we align these 2 departments together, what does that next level of leadership look like? So to your point, to make sure we weren't spreading one person too thin as the senior director. So when we originally put these 2 together, when Kevin retired and Chad took over as the senior director of Public Works, we did add, I would say we reorged, right? So we shifted some people into administrator positions, which weren't there before. They were more like managers of kind of a division or a segment. So we elevated those people into administrator, and then looked at how to structure their departments appropriately to support the new senior director. So that was what we knew would be phase 1 with Chad. Chad knew he would be retiring though, and so we didn't move into like phases 2 or 3 to look at, okay, under these administrators, now what does this leveling need to look like? And that's what Kyle's speaking to, that we'll be talking to you guys in future meetings, that now we're looking, okay, what's phase 2? But to your point, there was a ton of work and energy that went into creating the new org structure to ensure that the Public Works Director would not be spread too thin with this new structure. Commissioner French.
Yeah, the challenges with regard to engineering is not unique to Spokane. We've been experiencing it throughout the state, and in fact, WashDOT is having a challenge right now with regard to manpower. The legislature has overfunded the amount of work that WashDOT can actually produce, and so now there's a challenge about priorities and making sure the north-south corridor maintains the top priority with regard to WashDOT. But even at CRAB, counties across the state have been challenged with being able to get that backfill. So we are providing more programs for education and training, new software, new technologies to help supplement what the counties can do and stuff. So it's not unique to Spokane. It's a statewide issue. I think it's a national issue, but I know it's statewide.
Nationally, there are not enough, in just the civil infrastructure world, there are not enough civil engineers coming through the pipeline to support the amount of work, the infrastructure work that's funded, let alone the infrastructure work that's needed.
And I have a daughter that's a civil engineer with her master's in structural, so she's a structural engineer. And I mean, she could leave, works for Jacobs Engineering, she could leave there anytime and go anywhere else. I mean, it's a demand that's nationally out there for people, so. So it's harder, whether it's on the wastewater side or the, bridge, construction side, the highway, it's out there for everyone, so.
And one of the frustrations, even at the national level, is they've got all this money for infrastructure,
Right.
but they don't have a pipeline of projects and stuff. And so that's becoming a little bit of a challenge at the federal level about, we got money to spend on projects, but we don't have counties submitting the projects.
And I think the one thing too, just to make sure as we look at the ordinances and all of that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the county road engineer is one of the few direct hires of county commissioners.
By law, correct.
So just so you know that's one that it is the county commissioners that directly hire the county road engineer. Because again, back in the day, that was one of the main functions of the county commissioners was public safety and roads. So that will not change. That's kind of in code.
And by law, if you don't have a licensed engineer as your county engineer, it means that you're not eligible for state funds, particularly gas funds, gas tax fund revenue, and other construction dollars out of CRAP.
Yeah, so they have to be a PE.
There's a lot of statutory references to a county engineer in the RCWs that is then in our code as well as a code county.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just making sure I see Ben over here. Do we have Ben on the agenda?
No, we are.
He's on a break.
He just really likes to stay up to date with what we're doing.
It's not related to this.
Everything else is gonna be in executive session.
I have a miscellaneous.
That's for this afternoon.
Ashley has something.
I have one miscellaneous.
I mean, we're only at 10:30, so we may be able to get through. So is Ben here for an executive session? Okay. Okay, so you get to stay.
Ashley had something.
Yes.
I just
Ashley,
have one
miscellaneous?
miscellaneous, yes, so just a reminder for you commissioners, at the front desk, we do have an open seat coming for our Civil Service Commission, and so I know there are applications to be reviewed at the front desk. We do have the person whose term expires on May 16th. And so we're hoping you guys will have time to review those applications that are up there and then make a signature. As a reminder, the mix of that commission needs to vary across parties. And so there are currently 3 Rs that are already appointed onto that commission, 1 L and 1 I. And so the new person that would be on this commission or the seat that will be open needs to be something other than an R. So, and Bonnie is a Democrat who's on there, and then Julie, who's on there, is a Libertarian. So you do have a couple of options on there right now that are non-Rs. But just wanted to remind you, if we don't choose any that are on there from a party other than an R, we would need to reopen, and you guys can direct us to do so, but we would reopen for applications and then provide you additional options.
Does it say the party on the sign-off sheet? I didn't see. On
I
the
don't think it
sign-off
was on
sheet,
the
I
sign-off sheet.
didn't
No,
see the.
That was what was
We'll get it on there.
difficult to look through, and didn't we appoint somebody just this last week?
Yeah, and that was
Kennedy.
from over, I wanna say 6 months ago that position had been open, so
Oh, okay.
this one, we're trying to be proactive if we can, but if you would like to have it reopened, we're happy to do so.
So can you be an R and just identify as an L? No,
I'm
okay.
sorry. So
Just
the
asking.
person that wants to, so is there 2 positions?
That's one position.
Somebody that wants to be reappointed.
Yep, so Julie would like to be reappointed for a second term. If you guys are open to it, she's willing to do that. And she is currently the L that is on the commission. So her name is.
But we have other
And
applicants.
you have
that we
other
can
applicants that are ours, and then one other who is a D, which is Bonnie Bush. So essentially, right now, your list to look between for the mix would be between Bonnie and Julie. If either of them are appropriate, let us know and we'd be happy to reopen it.
Okay, can I just confirm, so is Bonnie Bush, did she used to work for the county?
Yeah,
I
she's,
believe so.
Yeah,
She was
Bonnie
the
used to be
past
the
juvenile.
juvenile director.
Okay, that's why I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So Julie, for your reappointment.
So for
Bonnie,
the-
what?
for Bonnie's seat, how many applicants are
It's
there?
for Julie's seat, yes.
So
And
Bonnie is a new applicant.
so I guess I would like Gina maybe to speak to this a little bit more on who she actually has on her list right now.
So currently, we already have, Julie is now the only one we need to fill if we do not reappoint Julie, which her term expires May 16th. Otherwise, we will need to reopen the application process. Currently, the other, 2 or 3 applications that we have received are party affiliation, so we would not be able to appoint either one of those applicants.
So was Bonnie Bush a party affiliation or was she an independent?
Bonnie Bush is already on the civil service,
Oh,
so
she
her
is.
term,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yes.
Okay,
Oh, she's
And
already
she's
on.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And she's de-identified.
okay.
So basically you have one option, I'm sorry. If you would like to reappoint Julie, then we would select her. If you would not, then your other option would be we go back out, we open the position and see if we get additional applicants that are other than the R party.
Okay. That,
Sorry about that.
very confusing,
I know, I'm
think,
sorry.
but we're at the point where I'm just gonna clarify. That if we choose to reappoint Julie, who
Yes.
is already a member and her term expires, if we reappoint her, then we're fine.
You're done.
If we choose not to reappoint her, then we have to open it up to everyone, and it has to be somebody other than our designation.
Yep.
Okay, which could be independent, L, or any of those others as well.
As far as we understand it right now, yes.
Okay, and Julie's designation is
L.
Thank you. Are we all clear?
Crystal.
So. Okay,
Crystal.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's not her.
She also applied.
Okay, thank you. Then the miscellaneous one that I have is again tomorrow, the University of Washington president is in town and she would like to come and she'll do her 3 minutes at the open public forum. Just to recognize that she's here,
What person?
University of Washington.
Oh, okay.
For 509 days.
You heard of it now?
What's that?
You've heard of it,
that
right?
one?
Barely. Are they accredited yet?
I know, my son was teasing me saying, you gotta wear your cougar shirt, Mom. This is my son's
I might
at
need to
WSU.
some garb, yeah.
So anyway, so I just wanted to, in case anyone, I was speaking with Catherine Brazel and said just, you know, if she's here a little bit early, if people wanna come and say hi ahead of the meeting, that would be nice. So just wanna make sure everybody was aware of that. Any other miscellaneous items? Okay, so then Scott, because we're way ahead of schedule, so,
Oh, we're gonna fill it up.
okay.
Oh, no, come on.
We've got a number of executive session items. I think will take us to, I think both you and Commissioner French should hit 11:45 stops, hard stops. I think that'll be perfect for this then.
So then we'll do the master planning this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, so it would be at 2 o'clock.
So, would you like me to go through these?
Yeah, you're determining the
No.
executive session.
We've got, and I'll do them in order, I think, what I would suggest we take them. We've got pending and potential
How
litigation.
many do we have?
We have 5 items. First one, pending and potential litigation, RCW 4230 110-1I. And that will discuss some stormwater impacts on federal parcels. That will be the, all of these will include the commissioners. I'll say all of them will include the executive management team. And then in addition to those, in this one will be Matt Koza and Ben Bradabo.
And all of them will include our civil attorney,
And all of them will include our civil attorney, Chris Anderson.
just make sure.
Yes. The next one
will be to discuss labor negotiations. And that will be under RCW 4230-144. In addition to, in that one, Matt Koza and Ben Bradwell will not be there, but Josh Groh will join us. The next one will be under pending and potential litigation. Again, RCW 4230-110-1I. In addition to the people I mentioned earlier, not including Matt Koza, Ben Bradwell, or Josh Groh, will be Steve Bartell. The next one will and I should say the first item will be for 10 minutes, Commissioner. The second item will be for 15 minutes. The third item will be for 15 minutes. And then the next item will be pending potential litigation, RCW 4230-110-1I. And that will not include any additional members, individuals. That'll be 15 minutes. And then the final one will be another pending potential litigation, RCW 4230-110-1I. That'll be for 15 minutes and no additional attendees.
Okay, and with that, is there action anticipated on any of those items?
There is no action on any of the items. Correct.
Okay. So at the point that, so that's an hour and 10 minutes.
Yep.
At that point, then we will be adjourning. We'll be continuing the meeting, not adjourning. We'll be continuing the meeting. That will then reconvene at 2 o'clock for discussion on master plan. And so if it goes beyond an hour and 10 minutes, then Commissioner French and I will be leaving at that point, and I will let you have you state how long the executive session extended for. So it is now 10:30, and I'm gonna say 10:40 by the time we get into executive session with Zoom and everything. So 10:40 to 11:40, 11:50 is when we anticipate being out of executive session, and we will be at that time, again, just continuing the meeting till 2 o'clock for then the next part of our meeting to talk about the master facility space planning. Thank you all, and we'll go into executive session until 11:50.